7, and we'd like to welcome you to our home and wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Before the sun rose on December 26, 1996, the house in Boulder, Colorado, was completely still. Christmas lights still glowed in the windows. Snow rested quietly along the streets. The world outside felt peace and calmful. But inside that home, something was very, very wrong. Halfway down the staircase, there was a letter, and nothing would ever feel normal again. This is the case of JonBenét Ramsey. Tonight, we're slowly stepping back into that winter morning. A quiet neighbourhood, a peaceful home, a moment that would stay in people's memories for years. So settle in and get comfortable and let the story unfold slowly. December the 25th had been like many Christmas days, warm, busy, full of life. Inside the Ramsey home, there had been laughter earlier that day. Voices moving from room to room, wrapping paper across the floor. A family spending time together. But as evening came, everything began to slow. Lights were turned off, one by one. Footsteps grew quieter. Doors closed gently. Late that night, the house felt silent. Outside, the neighbourhood was still. Snow resting on the pavements. Porch lights glowing softly. Curtains drawn in homes where families had gone to sleep. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing fell out of place. The Ramsey house itself was large. Multiple levels, long hallways, staircases connecting one floor to another. The kind of home where life moved between spaces constantly. Morning routines, school bags by the door, evenings spent together. From the outside, it looked stable, structured, peaceful. A place where life followed a pattern. And patterns feel safe. Late on Christmas night, the family returned home. The children were tired, the day had been long. Coats were taken off, doors closed softly, footsteps moved upstairs. One by one, lights turned off. And eventually, the entire house settled into silence. In the early hours of the next morning, before the sun had fully risen. Patsy Ramsey woke up. The house was quiet. She made her way downstairs, and halfway down the staircase, something caught her eye. Paper, several pages, placed carefully, still, waiting to be found. She picked it up and began to read. The letter was long, detailed, unusual. The words felt strange. It said JonBenét had been taken. It demanded money. The house suddenly didn't feel calm anymore. It felt unfamiliar. Like something had shifted. Like the normal routine had been interrupted. Rooms were checked. Voices called out. Footsteps moved faster. Confusion turned into worry. And worry slowly turned into panic. A phone call was made. Police were contacted. And the quiet streets began to wake. When officers arrived, the home no longer felt like a family space. It felt different, quieter, heavier. People moved slowly. Voices were kept low. Doors opened and closed gently. The house itself was studied carefully, room by room, staircase by staircase, trying to understand the layout, trying to understand the night. The home was larger than it appeared. Multiple levels, rooms connected in unusual ways. Long hallways where sound could echo softly. Investigators walked through slowly, not rushing, just observing. Noticing distance, noticing how long it took to move from one room to another. Building a picture in their minds. Downstairs, the basement felt different from the rest of the home. Cooler, quieter, more isolated. Investigators spent time there, carefully observing, taking in the space slowly, trying to understand the environment, trying to understand the timeline. As the morning turned into afternoon, attention shifted towards the time. What time the family returned home, when lights were turned off, when people woke up. Small moments being placed next to each other, minute by minute, hour by hour. Trying to form a clear picture, but nothing felt simple. Outside, the street had changed. Police cars lined the road. Neighbours looked on quietly. Curtains moved as people watched from inside their homes. The normal rhythm of the neighbourhood had been interrupted, even without knowing the details. People could feel something serious had happened. Within days, the story began to spread. At first, locally, small reports, short segments, careful voices reading calm headlines. People in Boulder began hearing about it. Shop owners, families, neighbours. The news began to travel from one station to another, from one city to the next. Soon, cameras arrived on the street. Large vans parked quietly along the road. Reporters stepping out, setting up equipment, speaking softly into microphones. The quiet neighbourhood now had attention. Across the country, newspapers began carrying the story. Front pages, bold headlines, black and white photographs. People read them at breakfast. People read them at breakfast tables, on buses, at work. The same story reaching thousands of people's homes. And once a story reaches that far, it stays in people's minds. Television stations began covering it nightly. Serious voices, careful words, images of the house shown again and again. Homes across the country watched. Families sitting in silence, listening, trying to understand. In Boulder, something in the town felt different. Not loud, not chaotic, just quieter. People spoke in softer voices. In small shops, at counters, in doorways. Short conversations, gentle tones, not gossip, just shared concern. Neighbours looked out for each other. People checked in. Small acts of kindness appeared. The kind that happens when a community feels something together. Morning routines continued. Children still went to school. Cars still drove through the streets. But everything felt slightly more thoughtful, more aware. At night, the street felt especially still. Porch lights glowing softly, windows dimly lit. People inside their homes, thinking, reflecting, trying to make sense of something difficult to understand. As time passed, the shock softened, but the memory stayed. Not spoken about loudly, not every day, just quietly in the background. Seasons began to change, snow melted, spring arrived, life moved forward, as it always does. Years passed, new families moved in, children grew older, the town continued its rhythm. But certain moments in time leave something behind. Not something you can see, but something you can feel. A quiet memory, a story that became part of the place. Across the years, people would still remember, not constantly, but sometimes. In quiet moments, a name spoken softly, a memory returning, a feeling of reflection. Time continued forward. Cities grew, new stories came and went. But some stories stay. Not loudly, but quietly, in memory. In Boulder, the streets still fill with morning lights. Snow still falls in winter, spring still returns, summer still brings warm evenings. Life continues, steady, calm, always moving forward. And now, as this story comes to rest, allow everything to slow. Let the thoughts drift. Let the details fade gently into the distance. Imagine the street at night, snow falling slowly, porch lights glowing softly, the world calm and still. A peaceful winter silence. Breathing slows, shoulders relax. The mind begins to rest. The story becomes softer, further away, like a memory fading into the background. And the night grows quiet again. Now let yourself drift and rest. Good night.